Hey everyone, I'm flying solo this week as Birdman's got some pretty heavy stuff going on family-wise, so he wanted to take a break. And this was originally I was going to be recording a Turd or Treasure, as I had a bunch of reviews I had to get out. And since this was sort of last notice, it's sort of a bit of both. So we're basically doubling up the reviews in this. So instead of 3, you're getting 6 2 by 2 by 2 sort of thing. And I'll still have the segments of the news, the weird news. Birdman's gathered everything for me, so I'll go over them in a little bit. But right now, here are the reviews you're going to get this episode. You got Anna and the Apocalypse on Blu-ray. You've got Bells of St. Mary's on Blu-ray. Just Dance 2020 on Stadia. The LucidSound LS1X and LS10X headsets that are for the Xbox. Now Voyager, which is a Blu-ray, as well as the Ultraseven Ultraman series on Blu-ray. So we'll talk about those later on. So without further ado, let's get to Anna and the Apocalypse, Bells of St. Mary's, and then the news.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
VVS Films has sent over Anna and the Apocalypse, which I know many friends of mine have raved about last year when it came out on in theaters. And now there is a Blu-ray release from VVS, and I wanted to finally check it out and see for myself, because I'm not always a big musical fan. It takes a lot for me to get into one. It's just not usually my style. A few exceptions have been the Tenacious D Pick a Destiny movie, as well as whenever like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or shows like that sort of break out and do an episode. And this is actually, it's like a mixture of the Shaun of the Dead, that sort of quirky style of comedy, mixed with Todd and the Book of Pure Evil. Now, for anybody in the States that might not have seen that, Todd and the Book of Pure Evil was a 2-season TV series made for, I think it was Space up here, which is now CTV Sci-Fi or something. Yeah, anyway. And it was basically like Ash vs. Evil Dead, but 10 years earlier in Canada, about a group of students that find the Necronomicon, basically, and all hell ensues. And there's an episode in there that's a musical. And it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And this is basically that exact sort of feel. And it's a Christmas horror movie, a Christmas horror comedy, which we need more of in this in this world. And I could see this being one of the movies that I break out every single year at Christmas to watch. It's sort of like an anti-Christmas movie. I would say, pair this up with Bad Santa and Bad Santa 2 as sort of guilty pleasures, or maybe not so guilty pleasures to watch at Christmas that are your anti-Christmas movie. I know I'm gonna, now that I've seen it and I really enjoyed it, I know I'm gonna make sure that Birdman gets to watch it and see what he thinks, because I know he's the biggest Christmas / horror nerd you can imagine, and this sort of blends everything right up his alley. So there's not much more I can say about it. It's just a well put together musical. Everything actually is pretty funny. As far as the Blu-ray goes, it has decent quality, nothing super fancy to write home about. It's a lower budget picture, but the transfer is really good. There's some behind the scenes bonus featurettes, and then it has the original soundtrack. Everything's mixed in 5.1. Nothing sounds overblown. It has the correct aspect ratio for the video. It's just a straightforward, good, Blu-ray release. So if you want something for like a stocking stuffer for the horror nerd in your family, I would say check out Anna and the Apocalypse from VVS Films. Olive Film sent over the newest in their Olive Signature series of Blu-ray releases, The Bells of St. Mary's, which stars Bing Crosby and Ingrid Bergman. The storyline is basically, I won't go into too much because it is a classic film. If you're a big film buff, you'll know it, and if not, it's one that you're going to want to watch yourself. It is the story of a new priest comes to the the St. Mary's, and butts heads with the woman in charge, the nun in charge, played by Ingrid Bergman, until a land developer comes and wants to basically tear down the facility to build like a new parking lot. When that was all the rage in the 1940s, the big car boom. So it sort of makes it so they have to join forces to sort of stop that. And it's just, it's like a picture of its time. It's been presented here quite well because it wasn't nominated for no reason. All the performances are great. The cinematography and direction are pretty darn good considering the time period it was made. I can say that this was a pretty good restoration as well. The picture is crisp and clean, and it looks like it could have been filmed yesterday and then just released in black and white. So kudos to Olive for restoring it. Now, it's been mastered from a new 4K restoration. This is one of those ones where I could see it eventually coming out on 4K itself. The print is that good. But on DVD and Blu-ray, like if they're using this 4K master, you can't really ask for more. It looks really, really good. Now, it also includes an audio commentary by Bing Crosby biographer, which I listened to, and it was pretty good. It wasn't as crazy insightful as some other films I had seen, but it did, give a little bit extra into the background of how the movie was made, which is pretty cool. Now, there's also a bunch of other extra features sort of talking about the film. This was... Bing Crosby played this character, or his character, on a previous film, so he carried forward the character into this. So this is a sequel, but not a sequel, if that makes any sense. It's just sort of a shared universe. Now, there are, interesting things added to it, like a Screen Guild theater radio adaptation. I listened to a bit of it, didn't listen to all of it, but got enough to realize that it's pretty cool when they include this. And especially when you do a radio play, it has to be a very different, because you can't just present it exactly like it is in the film because it's just a pure audio medium. There's also a booklet with some essays in there on the film as well, which is kind of neat. I always like when they include that, and it has some classic artwork and posters for it, the giant scrolls they used to put on the walls. So it's actually a pretty good release. It's not going to be for, if you're somebody who just listens to us for the sci-fi horror and stuff, it's not going to be one of those films. It's just going to be one of those in the same realm as like It's a Wonderful Life, or if you're a fan of classic cinema. I know it was neat to check out because I had never watched it before, but I had heard of it. I knew it was nominated for a bunch of awards and it was considered a classic. It's just one of those ones that flew under the radar for me. So I'm going to put a link in the description for it. You're probably going to want to check it out if you're a film buff, if you like Bing Crosby, if you like for me, in our family, Ingrid Bergman was always like the top tier. She was always like my grandfathers on both sides of the family, grandmothers. She was their favorite actress. So I'm just glad I finally got to see it.
News on the march!
It's news time. So we've got 3 stories for you this week. We'll get through them fairly quickly as I don't have Birdman to bounce off of, but they are pretty neat. So, dying Star Wars fan gets special advanced screening of The Rise of Skywalker. This is from ABC News. And you know that they've done this before with previous pictures. And you remember that there was it Fanboys? The movie was centered around that. And then it ended up, the joke was that they ended up seeing, was it The Phantom Menace? And everybody was jealous of the dying friend. But it was The Phantom Menace is what he ended up seeing. So it says here, I'll just read it sort of verbatim. With time running out, a hospice facility in England managed to secure a special screening of the Rise of Skywalker for one of its patients, a dying Star Wars fan they said would not live to see the film's December 20th release date. The patient, who was choosing to remain anonymous, was able to watch the film Friday morning thanks to some behind-the-scenes mountain moving by Disney CEO Bob Iger. It says, I just want to say the biggest thank you to everyone that helped make this happen during what is just a horrible situation to be in. You have helped to make some wonderful memories and bring some joy to my family. The man said in a statement, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and what I'm going through is completely dire. Then to top it all, I thought I wasn't going to see the film I had been waiting to see since 1977. I can't believe it. And then it says here, the hospice released a photo of the man and his son wearing stormtrooper helmets and holding blasters, surrounded by fellow costume Star Wars fans. So there's some pictures and more going into that, but it says her hospice employee, Lisa Davis, brought the patient's wish to the attention of the staff. Over several days, her hospice used Twitter to get the attention of many people connected to Star Wars, including Luke Skywalker actor Mark Hamill. The request eventually made its way to Iger, who granted the wish. On this Thanksgiving, we at Disney are grateful to share the rise of Skywalker with a patient and his family, Iger tweeted Thursday. It says here, a day later, the final chapter of the Skywalker saga made its way to the front doors of the hospice. This morning, a very nice man named Jonathan from Disney turned up at our hospice with a laptop that had a very important movie on it. The hospice tweeted a photo. I am utterly speechless about what happened. We cannot thank Disney enough for helping us to fulfill the patient's wish. The patient's wife called the response to her husband's wish mind-blowing. The massive Star Wars community has been incredible. The amazing people who have visited, along with messages and gifts we have received, have provided us with an opportunity to talk to our son more about the reality of his dad's condition. So, that's pretty sweet. I know it's obviously there's the cynic in me is like, oh, it's just another, press publicity stunt. But you know what? They've been doing this for years now with these fixtures, and it's not just Star Wars. It's always good when they'll do that, even if it is somewhat for the corporate financial gain of being like, look at the goodwill we're doing. But it really does make a difference to the families and the people that are seeing this. If I was going to pass of something that I knew that something I loved was coming out probably after I was going to pass, it's the little comforts like that, like being able to share that with his family and the community around him is very, very nice. So that is story number one. Story number two is that The Simpsons showrunner responds to claims that the show is ending. So, for anybody that's not in the know, Danny Elfman, the composer of the music, basically came out earlier in the week and said, hey, I think the show's ending, and there's not going to be anything past this year or whatever. It's winding down. And that basically threw everybody into a tizzy because there was a while, remember, everybody thought The Simpsons was going to end, and they're like, it should end. But then it got on so long that nobody wants it to end anymore. It's just like there are people like my brother who has never known a time when The Simpsons didn't exist. I mean, The Simpsons came on when I was 1, so I don't really know a time when The Simpsons didn't exist. And I mean, I guess technically The Simpsons existed before I was born on the Tracy Ullman show that year before, but that doesn't count. But still, like that is for a primetime show, like it's unheard of. It's like South Park; you can't see it ending, and so that can affect stocks even when you make claims like that that don't have anything to back it up. So basically, after that, writer and executive producer Al Jean has now cleared things up, telling the Metro News that there are currently no plans for the sun to set on Springfield. No disrespect to Mr. Elfman, but we are producing season 32 starting next year and have no plans to end after that. Whether fans see the latest update as good news or bad is up to them, but we suspect Danny Elfman will be a little surprised. After all, the musician admitted he was flabbergasted and amazed that The Simpsons had already made it this far. When I scored The Simpsons, I wrote this crazy piece of music and expected no one to hear it because I really did not think the show had a chance in hell. Really, I expected it would run for 3 episodes and then get canceled, and that would be that because it was so weird at the time, and I just didn't think it had a chance. So believe me, that is one of the biggest surprises of my life. So basically, don't say shit that you don't know, especially when you're somebody of reverence or somebody high up in the world of Hollywood, when that could actually basically explode and it could really affect things. I imagine there were more than a few angry phone calls to Danny Elfman over this. Don't make claims that you can't back up. So that's that. I personally would like to see them go. I originally thought do 30 seasons in a movie. if they can make it to 35 seasons and then just call it quits or do another big movie, the show should end on a movie. That's just the way it should be. The show should end leading into a movie, like leading directly into it, then have the movie come out in the summer, and the movie should show them growing up for real. Like, that's just how it ends. That would be just definitive ending. That is it. And, you know, they could walk away and everybody be happy. And I don't think people could complain. Or they could do what, you know, if they really ultimately wanted to, it still makes a lot of money. They could end it like Futurama or something, and then just keep doing a TV movie or do a special 2 or 3 times a year. If the show has to end, let's say, we're going to end it. Okay, well, you know what? Do a Halloween and a Christmas special every year for as long as the actors can. You know, and if that means even pre-recording some of them, you know, maybe do like 10 Halloween specials, have them all in production, then you have 10 years worth of backlog you can throw them out on, which would be pretty freaking sweet in my mind. So, and the last regular story for our news is the rise of comic book piracy, a real problem. This is from the BBC News. Comic book writers claim that the proliferation of piracy is a real problem, has encouraged others in the industry to share their concerns. Jim Zub, who writes for Marvel and IDW, tweeted that 20 times as many people read comics illegally shared online than pay for digital or physical works. Many other comic creators replied that their own experiences of pirated work. For some, piracy brought personal and professional costs, while others suggested radical distribution changes. So it says here, in the thread, Zub said having work spread without being paid for initially created a visibility boost for the creators, but has now become the norm for audiences for rapid consumption. I don't want pirate readers to think that it's no big deal or victimless, he tweeted. There's a longer article going into it, and I do agree. Personally, I do agree with this. The only thing is, it's like the music industry. The cat's out of the bag. You might have to change the distribution model. Basically, Diamond has to go away, in my mind. They handle all the physical distribution of the comics. You know what would make comics better? If comics were cheaper. And, you know, if they're losing 20 times the audience of what they currently have, maybe it's price. You know, here's the thing. The comics are $3, $4, $5 now. If you made the comics $1, and I mean like literally $1, and didn't change any of the printing, didn't add any more ads or remove things or anything, you made them $1 and made them available at every grocery store and didn't have to go to a comic store, or made them, you know, you could subscribe direct and get them in your mail for $1 plus postage, you know, per issue. I guarantee you'd get 5 times the people buying them that you currently get, and you would then have a larger readership, or maybe even 10 times the readership of what they currently have, which would in turn make 2 or 3 times the money they're currently making now. But they've gone the way that the movie theaters have gone. The higher you raise the price of your concessions, the higher you raise the price of admission, the less people you're going to get to come, and you're driving people to piracy. So you can't stop people from pirating it. You can only encourage people not to. That's the best way I can view it. So that's my own personal opinion, and you know, if anybody has their own, you know, please hit us up. We're always looking for feedback at ThisWeekInGeek. Hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. That's pretty much all I got to say on that. And you know what? I think we're at a point now where single issue comics are not going to sell at $3 or $4 or $5. But people are willing to pay for 3 or 4 issues combined together in a trade for $10 or $15, because they're specifically talking about comics, not trades. And I believe there's a lot more trades being sold in volume than there are actual issues. So that's going to do it for the news. We're going to go away and come back with a couple more reviews, and then after that, it's back in with the weird news.
Basically, using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Just wanted to talk briefly about my experience with Stadia lately. I haven't had such a downer attitude as other people have had. You know, in the media they're all like, boo, it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I found it to be mostly pretty good. I've had zero issues with lag that other people have had, but I mean, I've had it plugged in, well ventilated. I haven't had anything where it's shut down on me. The service seems to work fine. There is a lack of games, which is a big problem right now, I can think of, going into the holiday season, but they seem to be rectifying that by adding a couple more free games when it comes to subscribers come December. Cool. But what I wanted to talk about is I got the first review code from Ubisoft for it. They gave me a code for to check out the Just Dance 2020. I know Birdman had checked out Just Dance earlier, and he enjoyed it for what it is, because he's always loved the rhythm games. And I wanted to see how it would work on Stadia. And I'll tell you this, it works pretty well, actually. Now, how does the mechanics work? Because the controller doesn't have, like, gyros or anything built into it. Well, it connects to your phone, similar to how it worked when I played it a couple of years, or was it last year's edition I played? Yeah, where you have the option to connect your cell phone to it in that version. When you play it on Stadia, it's required that you use it, similar to how you use Jackbox. You basically pair it into the game session, and it uses it to track your motion of how you're moving it when you're dancing. So it doesn't work traditionally just with a controller or with like a camera or anything. You're able to do it lying down. You're able to do it accessibility wise, like from a wheelchair, like Michael could do it. You can do it from anywhere. And I've actually been a couple times I've laid in bed and just been like, all right, I'm just going to get an arm workout done. And you just lay down and do it and hang out that way. Or you can stand up and dance like normal. And it works pretty well. You basically connect your phone to the network, the same network that the Stadia is on, and it works just like that. Like, I didn't notice any lag at all. There was no discernible delay in controls from using your cell phone, or if you were navigating or playing a regular game using the Stadia controller, which is pretty good. Selections of songs, pretty diverse. They do have a subscription feature. You can subscribe in and get many more songs to it. It works pretty much right out of the box. To say there's no box, but you know what I mean. You just basically either purchase it or use your code, install, and the install is a matter of 1 second of it's activated, go use it. And logging in, it took about 10 seconds or so from the time that I clicked start the game to log in, and that's only because it was looking for my Ubisoft credentials, and because I did not had not signed into the game at that point yet. I signed in for the first time. It registered my Stadia account with it, and bam! Whenever I load it now, it's like 2 seconds. I'm in the game, can pick any song I want, start playing in whatever mode you want to play it in. So as far as an experience goes, it's just as good as playing it on any other system. It's not a game that's super graphically intense, but being a rhythm game, my concern was, would it be able to stay in sync when it comes to lag? And it was perfectly fine. So if you are going to play, if you're worried about Stadia having lag with certain games, I can say this definitively. Just Dance 2020 works perfect with it. And if you want to pick up that game and be able to play it on the go wherever you want, fun way to play. LucidSound has a couple new headsets. Well, actually, a pair of new headsets for both PS4 and Xbox One. And I got a chance to check out the Xbox One editions of each. We have the LS1X, which is a premium chat gaming headset. It's one of those ones where it's one ear so you hear the chat there. You'll have your music audio and everything, game audio, coming out of your television or surround sound set, with your left ear being a part of the actual chat aspect. It is an over-the-ear headset, and pretty comfortable, considering I'm not a huge fan usually of the one-ear headsets, because I find that it kind of scrunches up on you a little bit. No problem here. Very soft touch. Didn't hurt my head after wearing for multiple hours trying it out. The chat boom mic is really good, and it was crystal clear. I used it with friends, and we tested it out, and it comes with a 1.2 meter cable, which is pretty long considering what it is, and it's plugging into your controller, obviously. Now, it's pretty straightforward, basic. It'll get you up and going, and if you're looking for something where you just want something non-invasive that doesn't have audio going through it, and you don't want something that is going to block you from hearing the rest of the world around you, while still being able to hear what's going on in the game when you're coordinating with friends or parties. It's a pretty good headset to have. It's pretty compact too, but at the same time, good audio fidelity from the audio that comes through it, which is pretty surprising for one of these small entry-level headsets. But I'm pretty impressed with it. I'm going to put links in the description for both of them, because I do think if you're looking for something, if you're looking for like a stocking stuff or something really simple, or an extra headset just to have that you can throw on, not have to worry about, you can take on, take with you on the go somewhere, the LS1X premium chat gaming headset is probably one of the better ones you can go with this holiday season. The other one is its big brother, which is the LS10X, which the X stands for Xbox, obviously. Now this is the advanced wired gaming headset. So now this has two precision mics. It has a mic that is just built in, that you can just use and talk into. But if you plug in the boom mic, it uses a better quality mic that's directional towards your face. Very similar to the other LucidSound headset that I reviewed from them earlier this year. That was the more high-end premium one. This is a good middle ground. This is when you're getting into good quality for the price, but not necessarily every bell and whistle that the higher-end ones have. Now, it does have quick access audio controls, which means to mute, to turn up, turn down, that sort of thing. That has large audio drivers that deliver pretty dynamic audio. I had absolutely no issue hearing anything that was happening around me. It's not one of those sets that has like DTS:X or Dolby or that sort of thing. It's not going to have any fancy audio software or codecs decoders built in. This is just a straightforward, good analog audio headset that is one of the ones. This one covers both ears, so this is full. You can use this for music. I ended up plugging it in my iPod and trying it out a fair bit. No issues there. As good as any other headset in its class, if not sometimes better than some of the ones in its same price class. I would say you could use this if you wanted to, just as music headset around the house, especially if you unplug the mic, or you can use it for talking on the phone or anything, because it still has that mic built in that you don't need if you don't need the boom mic. And then if you want to play gaming, pop it in. It works great. It's going to be something that, with all these specials and bundles out there right now, with the Xbox One X bundles for Black Friday and in the holiday season, as well as the pretty cheap S bundles or the all digital bundle, I think they've got them down like $100 off on some of these. This is a good investment if you don't have a headset already, and especially if you're just getting into Xbox gaming. And if you just need something that's a good quality headset, you could actually get both, honestly. You could get the one which is the full-size LS10X and use that for all your audio capabilities with it. And then if you're going to a friend's house to game, or you have an extra controller, or you just want to have something that you can pop on but still hear what's going on around you. Like I have friends that have kids. They've got to make sure they can hear what's going on around them. That's where you want to go with the LS1X. The audio quality that you're going to get is pretty much equal through both. It'll be slightly better in the LS10X because they're slightly bigger drivers, and also the fact that it's immersive because it's a full headset that covers both ears. But you can't really go wrong with either. If you're looking for a headset that's new and that won't break the bank, these are definitely ones you're going to want to check out, the LS1X and the LS10X from LucidSound.
What makes you qualified to be a reporter? I'm willing to violate anyone's privacy for my personal gain and then claim with a straight face that the public has a right to know.
By the hand of Zeus, what manner of deviltry is this?
I love fake alien poop day.
It's finally time for the weird news. We got 3 stories here for you, all interesting. So, first one is from Gizmodo, and it is found frozen and almost perfectly preserved in permafrost. This 18,000-year-old puppy could be a huge deal. So, the DNA of an exquisitely preserved puppy found in Siberia doesn't appear to have to fit the profile of a dog or a wolf, which means the specimen might be something in between. The frozen, or it could be the fucking alien from the Thing. So watch the fuck out. The frozen puppy found near Yakutsk. That's weird to say. Yakutsk, Yakutsk. It's Yakutsk. Yakutsk. In eastern Siberia, was just 2 months old when it died, reports say. A joint project between Stockholm University and the Swedish Museum of Natural History used radiocarbon dating on its rib bones to basically blah, 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 18,000 years ago. It's weird looking from what I've seen. It looks like a bear. The level of preservation is unreal, with the puppy still exhibiting intact teeth, nose, and fur. Scientists were able to extract DNA from the specimen, allowing, oh god, it's going to be like horror movie, to confirm the pup's sex as male. It has since been named Dogor, which means friend. As to which the species the animal belongs to is now an intriguing question, as the DNA analysis was inconclusive. The little critter doesn't seem to fit the genetic profile of a dog or a wolf, and it quite possibly represents an intermediary stage between the domestication of dogs. We have a lot of data from it already, but with that amount of data, you'd expect it to be one or the other, a researcher said. The fact that it might suggest that it's from a population that was ancestral to both dogs and wolves, something from either from before or between. It's a fascinating possibility, but it's important that we not jump to conclusions. The specimen could very well be an ancestral wolf. If it is a dog, however, it could likely represent the oldest dog in archaeological record. The current record holder was Bonn, dated from 14,000 years ago. The incomplete remains of the ancient domesticated dog were observed in basalt quarry near Bonn, Germany in 1910. The origin of the dog is not completely clear, hence its importance to the new discovery. The first domesticated dog emerged from Asia around 14,000 to 16,000 years ago, but genetic evidence suggests the divergent state between dogs and ancient wolves happened at some point between 20 and 40,000 years ago. To complicate matters, dogs may have been domesticated twice, once in Asia and once in Europe. That the newly discovered puppy is some form of evolutionary missing link is wholly plausible, as the timing appears to be right, but more evidence is needed. To that end, the researchers at the Center for Paleogenetics are planning to perform more tests on the specimen to fully elucidate its genetic constitution, and will get a better handle on the species to which it belonged. Pretty cool. Ancient doggo, and it looks like a bear sort of hybrid dog. Kind of neat. It would be neat if we could find like more missing links like this. Like, I'd like to see the first domesticated cat. That would be really neat. So, story number 2. This is from the Toronto Sun. What do we got? Bad pork causes tapeworms to invade Chinese man's brain. Okay. A 43-year-old may reconsider eating pork in the future after consuming undercooked meat that left him with hundreds of tapeworms in his chest and brain. The man, Zhu Zhongfa, I can't pronounce that, unfortunately. Sorry if I'm butchering the name, but Zhu Zhongfa was hospitalized after suffering from recurring headaches and seizures. Zhu reportedly told doctors he ate hot pot, a Chinese cooking method in which meats and vegetables are cooked. Boiling broths with pork and mutton may have been undercooked. Yeah, I could see that because you cook it yourself and you're supposed to put it in there for a few seconds per side. I would personally lean, if I'm doing hot pot, towards doing it a little more well done, maybe 30, 40 seconds instead of 10 seconds, because the pork is usually so thin, it cooks fast. Usually you do it with beef. Beef hot pot is more common. So, yeah, anyway, Chinese news. site reported that doctors performed an MRI on the man, which revealed hundreds of tapeworms in his brain. A further scan showed more tapeworms in his chest and lungs. Doctors noted the tapeworms occupy parts of the man's central nervous system, which caused headaches and seizures. It entered his body through his digestive system and traveled through his bloodstream. The infected man was diagnosed. It says he has skull depressurized and brain dewormed by doctors. He has also been given antiparasitic drug and other medications to prevent damage to his body. According to the World Health Organization, it results from undercooked infected pork and causes tapeworm eggs to spawn in the brain. If untreated, the tapeworms stay there for 2 to 3 years. Good fucking God. There's a horror movie for you. So yeah, don't eat undercooked hot pot. Yeah, no. And the final story we have here is from the CBC in Canada. Toronto police arrest man who allegedly threw feces. It's the shit thrower. Yeah. Okay. So, man, 23, charged with assault with a weapon. The weapon is his poop, by the way. Police have arrested a man believed to be responsible for throwing poop at 5 people. The man is accused of throwing a bucket of liquefied shit at passerby in 3 separate instances that took place between Friday afternoon and late Monday night in Toronto. I heard about this. Samuel Opoku, 23 of Toronto, was arrested in the Queen Street West and Spadina Avenue area on Tuesday at around 6 p.m. Police would not say exactly where he was arrested. Police said the man was charged with 5 counts of assault with a weapon and 5 counts of mischief interfering with property. He is due to appear in a downtown Toronto courtroom at 10 a.m. On Wednesday. There has been an update. I've double-checked, so we'll know later probably. He's being held at Toronto Police 52 Division. In news release on Tuesday, police allege a man entered research library at 130 St. George Street on the University of Toronto downtown campus on Friday and emptied a bucket of feces over a woman and a child seated at a table. Oh my God. The incident happened at about 5:20 p.m. Police further allege a man approached a woman in an area of College and McCall Streets on Monday and emptied a bucket of feces over her. This guy doesn't like women, apparently. The incident happened at 11:55 p.m. Constable Alex Lee, spokesperson for the Toronto Police Service, acknowledged that the incidents were unusual for the city. It's disturbing. It definitely is. It's very disturbing. Let's call it what it is. Lee told CBC Toronto on Tuesday night, "We are definitely, as an organization, taking this very seriously." Yeah, I would be fucking pissed. You can get like really diseases and weird shit from that. From the shit, obviously. Police released security camera images of a man on Monday and Tuesday, but it is not known whether the man pictured was the one who was arrested. It says here, "I do stress that public come forward with this information, blah, blah, blah. This is definitely something that is very fresh." You know, the shit was fresh. Toronto Mayor John Tory expressed relief, tweeted the arrest. "Great work by the Toronto police arresting the individual in the feces attacks. I hope this arrest will help calm concern of campuses across the city." And then it has risk of infection from fecal matter is low, expert says. But still, they finally caught the shit. That was all over the weekend. It was the shit thrower. It's basically buckets of shit just dumping it on people. That's disgusting. Also hilarious, but extremely disgusting. And you should go to jail for that. Could you imagine going to jail and they're like, "What are you in for?" I killed a guy. "Oh, what happened?" "Bank robbery." "What are you in here for?" "I dumped poo on people's heads." That's not going to go over too well. But yeah, that's going to do it for the weird news. And oh God, all I'm going to think of is like tapeworms and fecal shits and all that. Ugh. Anyway, we'll be back after a couple of reviews and I'll close out the show and sort of explain what's going on this week and coming up on TWIG later.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
Criterion Collection sent over their newest release, now Voyager, which is a film starring Bette Davis, Claude Rains, and some other character actors that you might have heard of from the classic Golden Age of Hollywood. Now, this was originally a Warner Brothers picture from 1942. It's just about 2 hours long or so, black and white, mono. in its original proper 1.37 to 1 aspect ratio, slightly wider than television. That's how film was back then. Now, it's a film that I hadn't heard of before, but for some reason I thought, after I started watching it, I went, wait a minute, I must have seen this on Turner Classic Movies at some point, rolling in the background on like a Sunday afternoon or something. But the basic premise of it is Bette Davis plays a spinster. She's stunted from growing up under the heel of her basically super like religious mother, and she's convinced that she's unworthy of anything until she meets a psychiatrist, and then decides to go on a cruise. And it's sort of a late coming of age story where somebody comes into their own and learns to express themselves and be who they always wanted to be. And it's a nice. I just enjoyed it. It was one of those movies when you watch it, I'm like, it put a smile on my face to transport me back in time, because cruises and all that sort of thing, it's not really like the big deal anymore. But this is in a time when not everybody flew and most people didn't go on vacation, so this was still sort of a very big deal in the 40s, especially since this is during World War II when this movie came out. Now, I would say it holds up. It's one of those ones you're going to want to watch with family, or if, again, you have to be sort of a movie buff to like it. But what you don't have to be a movie buff to like is just how amazing Criterion always handles all of their film transfers. Brand new 4K digital transfer. This is put in 1080p, but it has a 4K master, which makes all the difference. Uncompressed original soundtrack. There's an episode of the Dick Cavett Show from 1971 with Bette Davis, which I always like that they include these extra things that not a lot of other sets would include. The Dick Cavett Show is really underrated, and I always liked watching clips of it on YouTube. So seeing something, in high quality on here, interviewing her is just great. There's an interview with one of the other actors from 1980. There's some commentaries for certain scenes by film scholars. There's a new interview with a film critic, basically on the making of the film, which is kind of interesting. And instead of going with the traditional full commentary explaining it, there's just an interview, which is neat though. There's a new interview with a costume historian, 2 radio adaptations from 43 and 46, plus an essay. They always include a really good booklet that talks about the film in all their box sets, and this is no exception. Criterion has never, in my mind, put out a poor release. So if you're a big film collector, this is going to be one to pick up. So that's now Voyager. Mill Creek has the 3rd series of Ultraman, Ultraseven, out on Blu-ray. And I had a chance to check it out. And now I'm starting to see something. The box sets, if you line them up side by side, are going to be having a giant mosaic picture of all of the series as it slowly gets released, which is really neat. So I can't wait for the rest to come out and see how the whole picture is going to look like. But anyway, so the storyline for this version of Ultraman is the 7th member of the Ultra Guard. As Interstellar War of Invasion, that's in quotes because the English is not great, spreads across the universe, a scout from the Land of Light in Nebula M78 comes to Earth on a mission of peace. After witnessing a heroic act of self-sacrifice by a young Earthman, the alien is inspired to protect the planet and its people from those who would do it harm. He adopts the human identity of Dan Moroboshi, and joins the Ultra Guard, an elite unit tasked with defending the Earth from alien invaders. Blah, tongue-tied here. The team's newest member, the giant hero Ultraseven. So I remember seeing bits and pieces of Ultraseven on weird Saturday afternoon blocks on local access TV back in the day. But here we have every single episode remastered at the same quality as the previous 2 releases have been, with the booklet, audio, brand new English subtitles, really good translation on the subtitles, and it's just another great release that's just in time for the holidays if you have extra cash. Now we're starting to get closer and closer, inching towards, as the technology gets better and better in these shows, And I can say this is a big upgrade on the costumes from the first 2 seasons, the first season being black and white, obviously, but the costumes and some of the villains appear, in multiple series after, and they started to really get a hold of how high quality you could make these suits for the Ultraman, and as well as some of the sets. Holds up quite well considering that this thing came out, so long ago. And as far as any other features that it comes with, it doesn't come with much. It's pretty bare bones, but does have that booklet with the episode synopsis guides for each episode, as well as a digital copy from Movie Spree, Mill Creek's streaming service. So once you redeem that, you can take it sort of on the go and watch wherever you've got an internet connection, which is pretty sweet. So the Ultraman collections are coming up pretty steadily. They're sort of working forwards and backwards. They're releasing these deluxe sets of the original series from the beginning all the way up towards the modern day, while also releasing like Ultraman Geek and Orb and that, working their way back. So they're probably going to meet in the middle somewhere, I'm guessing. But I'm, as a super tokusatsu nerd, I'm in nerding heaven right now with all these releases, and they're so reasonably priced too. Like, figure in Japan, if you're going to be buying these sets, you'd be looking at like a couple $100 a piece, because you know what it's like buying Blu-rays or DVDs of Gundam and weird things over there, where it's like you pay like $80 an episode. No, here you get a whole set with every episode, good box art, and you're looking at under $50. And I can't state a direct price because MSRP is going to be different than what regular stores are going to carry it for. But now that the holiday sales have begun, you'll probably be able to get a pretty good deal on it online.
Those magnificent bastards!
Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show. So, like I said at the beginning, Birdman's off because there's been some family stuff going on that he has to take care of that's pretty pressing and important. Send out any love you can to him on Facebook, because right now there's some stressful times ahead. So I'm assuming he's back next week. He may not be. I know he should have some reviews, but he'll apprise everybody on what's going on there. There was going to be a Tour de Treasure, but this sort of turned into the Tour de Treasure mixed with the show as a double feature, because I had the reviews to get out and I had to cover the rest of the reviews for the show this week. So that's why we had the double up of 6 reviews instead of 3. That's not going to be the norm always, but that was just at this moment. As far as what's coming for reviews, I have been checking out a couple films from Black Fawn Distribution, and they are a local business in Ontario, Guelph actually, that makes horror films. I've got a couple that I'm checking out from them, the Better the Dead and Bring Me Your Dead, or actually, what is it? Double check. I've got a few of them here. I've got a couple of releases from them that I'll be checking out, and then I'm going to make sure Birdman sees them too, so we'll probably be doing an interview later on with them as well, what it's like to make independent cinema from conception. They're basically writing, directing, producing, and distributing on Blu-ray their own feature-length horror films, which is pretty cool. We've also got... I'm currently checking out BritBox, which is a streaming service of British dramas, like classic dramas as well as more modern ones. Think of it like Netflix for British shows. So I'm wanting to check it out on a few different devices before I give my final say on it. We've also got a review coming soon of what is it here? We have Mr. Blunden, which is a classic release coming out from AIM, who is it here? Second Sight is putting that out. Got a few things on the go. The Amazing Mr. Blunden, limited edition Blu-ray. That's it. So I'll have a review of that, I believe, on the next week's show, or maybe the week after, depending. And then we've got whatever games and stuff is coming. I know Birdman has a bunch of stuff he has to get out. So Birdman has... Mech Warrior 5 he's working on, the single-player mode, Super Lucky's Tale, and I believe he's still working on the Jackbox release, Jackbox Party Pack 6. and then whatever else he has. I think he has some books and stuff. So there's still plenty coming, and we've got our gift guide coming in 2 weeks or so, and that's going to be probably it for the rest of the year, except for we're going to have our end of year specials, like our best games, what do we look forward to in the future. So we're going to have a series of specials, just not the regular weekly show. And there's probably going to be a turd or treasure in there if we need to get a review out before the end of the year, if that's something that we think is timely to get out. And we want to have a commentary or two too. So we're not going away. We take the hiatus, which is generally from the second week of December until the beginning second week. It's usually about a month or so. Second week of January, maybe the beginning of February. We might take the better part of January off too. All depends on what Birdman says. But at least 3 or 4 weeks we take off, and in that time period we're going to have content coming out still. So that we're still going to be active. We're just not going to be doing the regular shows. So that's going to do it for this week. If there's anything else, I will make sure that I tweet it out. But I believe there's not going to be a turd or treasure this week because I'm going to be visiting family. Birdman's got his stuff going on right now. So it's going to be it. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and at least in our states, in the States, all of our friends down there. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and didn't, beat each other up too badly over Black Friday and got some decent deals for Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at thisweekingeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at thisweekingeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.
This holiday season, prepare to have the stuffing scared out of you. Thanksgiving. In the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts, the fourth Thursday in November is the most celebrated day of the year. The table is set. The festivities have begun. But an uninvited guest has arrived. And this year, there will be no leftovers. Thanksgiving. White meat, dark meat, all will be carved. Thanksgiving.
Come on, Judy, how about it?
Happy Thanksgiving, baby.
Thanksgiving.
Cool it, Judy. You're safe. Mommy's here. It's blood. Son of a bitch.
Arrive hungry.
Happy Thanksgiving, Grandma.
Leave stuffed. From Rector Eli Roth. Thanksgiving. You'll come home for the holidays in a body bag.